Alright, so everybody should be able to see this screen. Today we are looking into conditional statements. So just to get you guys to know where we are currently on the material, we are in chapter 3 of the material. So where are we? We are here. Still went down a lot. We are here. So this is where we are. Chapter 3, conditional execution. So the first thing we need to talk about is the boolean expression, and would go into that. So it says the boolean expression is an expression that is either true or false, because most of us here probably already know a bit of programming, so we know what it means for something to be true or to be false. And would we'll look into that, and we'll show you what this double equal sign means. It's basically a comparison operator. It's comparing two values. It's asking you, is 5 equal to 5? If the answer, if it's true, it will return true. If not, it will return false. So to see a very practical example of that, let's just run something now. So let me just say 5. Let me just use exactly the same example they use, equal to 5. So now there's a difference between what I'm writing. So there's a difference between this and this. These two are not the same thing. Okay. So the first one is like asking a question, right? The second one is an assignment. This is a comparator. Two equal signs is comparing. What two equal sign does, it compares the value on the left to the value on the right. What one equal sign does is that it assigns the value on the left to the value on the right. So left, right, yes. So yeah, now we are going to be checking out what this returns, whether it returns true or false. So if I say, let me just put it inside a print, and just put it inside a print statement. So print 5, let me see if it will return true or false. Equal 5. So if I run this, yeah, you see it returns true. So because 5 is equal to 5. But now if I do 5 equal to, the answer should be false. So yeah, that's basically how the double equal sign works. So other comparators too work the same way. So you can have greater than or equal to, and if I run it, it should also return either true or false. So it's saying false because 5 is not, this condition is not correct for, I think this is 2. 5 is not less than 2, so it won't work. If I try greater than or equal to, I should keep seeing the same thing. So let me try greater than or equal to now, and equal to 2. If I try it, so it says true. 5 is greater than 2, so greater than or equal to 2, so it's correct because 5 is greater than 2. But it's not, although it's not equal, but the thing about the OR operation is that if one condition is met, it will return true. So this is basically OR operation, greater than or equal to. All right. There are a lot more like this. There is less than or equal to. There is not equal to. So if I try not equal to, and run it, you'll see that the answer should be true. 5 is not equal to 2. If I put 5 on the other end, let me see. If I put 5 on the other end and run it, it should return false because 5 is actually equal to 5. So this is saying 5 is not equal to 5, and Python is like, what? No, 5 is actually equal to 5. So this is false. This statement is false. All right. So that's it for Boolean. And if you want to check the type, so if I write print and I put inside here type now, and I put inside that bracket, I write true, the answer should come out as bool. So this is the class. So this is the data type of this true. True is a data type, is a recognized data type in Python. Just like we have integer, we have string, so we also have Boolean. So as we move along, we will get to see more data types. We get to see dictionary, list, tuple, set as we go down during the training. So now that's pretty much it for simple comparative operators like greater than or less than, equal to, not equal to, what else? Yeah. So after these things, we now start looking into things like if statements. So now this is actually where we this is the main place sef. As in once you start doing if statements and conditional statements in Python, you are good to go. So that's what we need to start entering now, if statements and stuff. So we will ask you, what's an if statement, or how do you write an if statement in Python? It's very simple. It's actually very simple. I'll just need to say if, and I can now say something like if maybe a, okay, let's do 5. If 5 equal 5, and I do this. So this is where you now need to start learning the syntax language of Python. Like how does Python understand and write syntax? So this, so because now you can start making this way, you can start making a lot of mistakes. So if 5 equal 5, I want to say maybe print print what? Let me say print what now? 5. Print, let me say 5 equals to 5. All right. And if I run it, you see what will happen. 5 is equal, oh wow, sorry. 5 is equals to 5. So yeah, that's pretty much how to write a simple, very simple if statement. So okay, yeah, there are some keywords I forgot to mention to us, some comparative keywords. So let me just chip them in right now. So when you're comparing to, there are a lot of ways to compare. We can say something like if A is let me see, if A is 5, if A is 5, then I'm going to perform equal to equal 5 is equal. Okay, that doesn't work. It doesn't work, don't worry. I'll reach out to those ones later. So let's continue. So now, after we've done a simple if statement, all right, you might, I mean, there is more actually. So the thing now, this is where you start seeing something called indentation in Python. So the way Python runs its code, remember when we first started, we said Python runs its code like statements, so line after line, line by line. But if you notice something, up till now we've been writing all our code on the same line like this. But now, if these two codes are on the same line, you might be wondering why there is an indentation level, or like a space. If these two codes are on the same line, what Python understands is that this is an independent statement and this is also an independent statement. So they don't depend on each other. But the fact is that they actually depend on each other. This print statement is dependent on this statement before it. Unlike the previous code we've been writing, where we just say a is equal to, maybe a is equal to 5, and they will come here and say b is 6, b is equal to 6. Then we can now come and do something like c is equal to a, I'm coming times b, right? Let me let somebody in. Where's my alright. Okay. So now we look. So I want you guys to understand the way Python reads and reads its code. So up till now, all the code we've been writing have been looking like this, right? Where everything is on a single line. So we have a is equal to 5, b is equal to 6, c is equal to a times b. This statement here does not depend on the statement before it, and this one too does not depend on this one. So when we say a is 5, Python stores the value, and then here performs an operation, and that is it. And even when we say print, print what now? Print C. So when we say print C, the only thing that this statement here, oh, please, can we mute our mic? So the only, okay, sorry. Okay, so now if you look at this statement, the only thing that this print needs is actually just the value of C. So C can be anything. So the how will I put it? How will I explain this hierarchy thing? In a way, this print, although it depends on what print is concerned with here is whatever the value of C is. So as far as the value of C is anything, it will come out on this print statement. So the difference between these two, between what we have here and what we have here, is that now the reason it's called conditional is that for this statement to run, this condition must be met. So you cannot put the two of them on the same hierarchy. So Python has a like hierarchical way of thinking. If I put it here, Python is like, okay, this is a independent statement and this is also an independent statement. So what Python will try to do is just say if 5 is equal to 5, it will immediately it sees this if 5 is equal to 5. Python is actually expecting something. Okay, so something needs to happen, right? But then when I put print here, it means I've escaped that whole this thing. So Python is expecting to see something under here, like maybe this is what Python is expecting to see, a condition under the if statement. But then when you don't provide that and I run this code, it's going to tell me an error, indentation error. It says expected an indent block after the if statement on line 2. So Python is expecting something to come under this if statement because you've told Python that, okay, this is an if statement, this is a condition, and after, if the condition is met, perform an action. Then you didn't now provide an action, you jumped to a next statement. So Python is like, I'm confused. So that's why for every condition, or even mostly almost any, when you start writing more complex code, you notice that you need to watch your indentation levels because Python has like a parents to child way of running, or a how would I explain it? Let me see. So imagine this is a book and then these are chapters inside the book. So to get to a chapter, you need to open the book, right? That's why this guy must be inside this guy because this is like a book, this is like a chapter. Okay, so you will start seeing more ways of using indentation as we go down writing statements and conditions and all. So so the next thing we'll do is we can, so with this you can already take input. So let us add what we've learned previously instead of moving continuously adding them. So now already to take input here, you might be wondering how to do that. All you need to do is provide a variable to store that input and then test it. So I can come here and say, let me create a variable called age again. Alright, and then this thing now equals to, we all know what I'm supposed to do first, int typecast and then input. Alright, and it will now ask the user to prompt, maybe enter your age. So now at this point, enter your age, whatever your age will be. Now we can now come here and compare. If age, right, if age is equal to 5, remember two equal signs, not one. If age is equal to 5, print age is equal to 5. Alright, and if we run it, it's going to ask me now, enter your age. If I enter 6, it will just escape, nothing will happen because this condition was not met. So the code has run, the condition wasn't met. I didn't provide an external, or I didn't provide like an else. So I didn't provide something, I didn't tell Python, okay, if this condition is not met, check if another condition is met. I didn't do any of that. So immediately it checks for this condition and it is not met, this code will not run. Okay, so it doesn't even open the book in the first place. So it checks, should I open the book? No. So it means we don't get to read this at all. Okay, so if I run it again and I provide the correct condition, which is 5, enter your age 5, hit enter, age is equal to 5, correct. Now so what if I want to make sure that even if the user doesn't enter 5, I want my code to still to be able to respond to different types of what's it called, inputs. I can still work on this same one line of code and say, okay, if the age is greater than or equal to 5, right? Now I can enter anything from 5 and above and my code will still run. So I think we'll be using this function. So printf I'll come here, age is equal to open curly brackets, and I'll just put what's age inside there. All right. Now, so let's run it and see. So at this point, I can enter any age from any, as far as it's greater than or equal to 5, I can enter it. I can say 24, and it will say age is 24. You get? Wait, someone is trying to join. Okay, no one is trying to join. All right, back to, so okay, someone's actually trying to join. Okay. All right, so let's continue. So now, yeah, so we are, so what the aim is to make sure that our code doesn't crash. Like, so this is where you can now start seeing code crashing when someone enters the wrong thing. So I can show you something now. Which,
I think Bekezela wants to talk. Which one?
oh, okay, okay. Please, Mr. Begzela, feel free.
Yes. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Yes, I just want to see what happens. When it says age, enter your age. Can you type 5 in words there? Let's see what happens. Then run. I want to see what happens when you type 5 in words.
Okay, okay, okay. So if you run it now,
I'm really
and I write 5, you saw what will happen. It's going to throw
not
an
5
error.
words.
So it threw an error simply because now we are expecting so what we did is we are typecasting. Remember, you cannot typecast from string to integer, right? So the only way to fix this issue is to probably remove this integer typecasting that is here and change this to, maybe I'll change this to something like this. I would have said, I'll put a string here and I'll say 5. I'll do this. Now, this will work, but for it to work, I'll need to remove this typecasting I did here. And if I run it again and I now enter 5, now you understand, it works, but it will only work for 5. So the reason it didn't work initially is because you can't change from integer, you can't change from string to, I mean, you cannot change from letters to a number. You get?
That's nice.
All right. Let me just Control Z back to where I was. Can I Control Z? Okay, so Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and Control. Okay. So a bit more functionality with a bit more, things we can add now. So already we are handling what will happen if the, so we are saying if user enters any age greater than or equal to 5, print it out, print out the string and tell them the age they entered. So what if they enter something that is not inside within this our value, like, this condition doesn't really cannot catch the value that the user entered? What do? That's where we use else. We use an else statement. So let me accept someone is trying to join. All right. So now that's where we use something called an else statement, right? So this thing is basically, it's just like asking when you are sending someone on an errand. So you tell them, go to the market and buy beans. If there is no beans, what else should I buy? So if there's no beans, buy something else, right? So that's basically it's the same thing you tell Python. If the age is less than 5, do something else. So we'll tell Python else, and then we'll say else, do what? So else, print what? Age. Oh, sorry. What should it print now? Okay. Yeah, print. So if we run this down and we enter any age that is less than 5, so let me say I entered 3, what should happen? Age less than 5. So if you get, so once this condition is not met, Python doesn't even bother opening this. It checks this condition. Okay, is this the book I'm looking for? No. Or like, is this condition met? No. So don't run this statement. Jump to the next hierarchy. So if you check the indentation level, you see that if and else are on the same level, but these statements are under them. So you get, so Python will come here, look at this. In fact, once you see this, once you anytime you're writing statements, this is basically how you end it with through maybe a column. I think, yeah, a column. Okay. So anytime you see a column like this, you know that a statement, even for functions, for statements, so it means anything you're writing will be, yeah, coming under that function or that statement. So just note it that this column, anywhere it appears in Python, the next line usually always should be under it. You know. Yeah. So this for if and else. So they still, so you might be asking, we should, what can we do, what else can we do, there's actually a lot of other things that you can apply here. So what if you want to catch like three different set of values? So it's getting tricky now. Someone is trying to join, I think, the meeting. Okay, nobody. Okay, so what if you want to catch like three values? Say um you're not just checking if it is above 5, maybe greater than or less than. What if you want to check if it's in between? Yeah, something like that. What if you want to test for, maybe if the age is in between, maybe 5, let me say, okay, we have 5. We want to check, let's increase the margin. If the age is above 10, maybe 10, then 5, then less than 5. How do you check that? So you can use an else if. So you can actually check for multiple conditions. And that's what we're going to do now. So I will remove this else here. Right, so I'm going to introduce you to another type of function called an elif. So it's called an else if. So it's basically saying if age is, so let's increase this to maybe 15. So if the age is greater than or equal to 15, run this. Else, if the age is let's say is between 10 to 15, so it means if the age is greater than 10 but less than 15, so we'll come out here and say if age is greater than, sorry, age is greater than 10, age less than 15, I'm not writing the wrong thing. Right, next line. Okay, we have to use an and here. And age is less than 15. Move to the next line. So what we want to probably print out, probably the same string here, tells you what your age is. So I'll just copy this, come here and paste it there. So if we run this one now, you see what we should print out. So it says enter your age. So let's enter something between 10 and 15, say 11. All right, and if we enter it, your age is equal to 11. So now we can catch ages that are between 10 and 15. So you see I introduced you to two things now, the else if and the and. So if you notice the way Python is, it actually looks closely related to human readable language. So most of the time in Python you can actually guess, and you can guess things and you can figure it out correctly. So even if you forget when you're writing code, sometimes just use your intuition to be like, okay, if I was going to tell this thing to somebody, how would I have said it? And most likely Python is going to be very close to what you were thinking. So you just have to be a bit more how do I put it, straightforward, logical about the series. Just remove all the extra, just be straight to the point. And so now so the last thing you need to know concerning if statements is that you cannot have an else here in this. Like for example, at this point in this code, you might be thinking, okay, what if I put an else here? Someone must have probably thought about it. It can't work simply because the else is the last thing. Like, so let me create a scenario for you. I remember when I was small, my mom always used to send me on errands, and she would give me like multiple conditions. So because she knows if she doesn't give me a condition, I'll go there and I'll pick anything I want. So she'll tell me, okay, go and buy milk, and I'll be like, okay, which milk? She'll say, buy Dano milk. Okay, I'll be like, if there's no Dano milk, what else should I buy? So she'll say, okay, she'll be like, okay, if there's no Dano milk, buy Loya. I'll be like, if there's no Loya, what should I buy? She'll say, if there's no Loya, buy Peak. And I'm like, okay, what if they don't have like peak milk or anything? She'll be like, oh yeah, don't buy anything, just come back. if they don't have this 2 mil, come back home. So it's going to be like this. If there is peak, buy it. Else, if there is no peak, buy Dano. Else, if there is no Dano or peak, come back home. So this else here, you cannot have an else statement in the middle of, like, how do I put it? The else statement must always come last, because is the last resort. It's like, if nothing else works, run this. Basically, that's what you're telling Python. So if I put it here, Python is going to throw an error for me. If I say else now and I push shift, sorry, I do like shift enter, and I come down here and I now say maybe print I ran now. Okay, I run it. Python is already throwing an error, and you will see the error is going to say invalid syntax. So this is an invalid syntax. This else now cannot come here. Where it can come, Control C. I can put it down here, Control V, and Python is okay, fine. So what Python is going to do, it will run this, it will check for the if. If the condition is met, it will run it. Then it will check. So since the if is met, it will run. The else if, the way this thing works is that once one condition is met, the rest are kind of almost like in a way debunked. But you can actually meet 2 conditions at the same time and it will run the 2 of them. So it will check for this condition. If it's met, to run. It will come here and check for this condition. If it's met, it will run. If it's not met, it will jump out, and then it will check here. And this is basically else. So where this is like, if nothing works, if nothing else runs, run this guy. So let's try it now. Let me run this. So enter your age. So if age is greater than 15, so let's test for the first one. Let's enter something like 20. Hit enter. Age is equal to 20. You get. So since this if statement ran, as you can see, it didn't run the else. It didn't. This guy didn't run because this guy worked. This is a last result if nothing else works. All right. So we'll test for the second one now, and if we say enter your age, let's enter age between 10 and 15. Say 13. Oh, sorry, that was not 13. And if I run it, where is my play button? Stop and run. Yes. 13. And hit enter. Age is equal to 13. So this block runs. Yes. But now, what if I enter something that is outside the 2 conditions I met cannot catch a value I enter? So let me say I enter a value between, so this is greater than 15, between 10 and 15. So if I enter something that is less than 10, so it's something like 5. Now, guess what will happen if I run it? I ran. You see, so else will only run when all your conditions are not met. Else will now run. So you can have as many conditions as possible. You can have 50 conditions before the else condition. You can write a code to catch as many. So this is how before we used to write chatbots, custom chatbots. So we'll be checking if the use. So let me even. So I think we can even build a small chatbot now. It was very small one, very simple one. With this simple if else statement. So you guys can start to see the things, like the power you already have. So let me just, so I'm going to create a variable to store the user's input. So I'll call it user input, and I'll give it an underscore input, and I will equate it to a string. For now, let's say input. So what is it? Say something, right? Okay, I'll talk to him. Let's say hi. Talk. Alright, and so this our chatbot only takes strings. It only takes.
Do you have something to say? I think he wants to say something.
Okay. Hello.
Maybe we can continue.
Okay, so yeah, I want to finish this one before it's 7:40. So we have a variable to take our user input. So we'll be taking in only strings for our chatbot. And if you now come and say, okay, user input, hi, talk to me, the next thing we want to now do is we need to start processing that input. So the first we're using if statements. If user input right, equals to. So this I did one very weird chatbot one time. So this I put equals to. Now we can now say hello. So let me put a string here. Hello. What should it do? What should I do? Now I can now put a print hi. My name is bot 204. Alright. And okay. Now so okay, what is your name? What is your name? And after that, we are going to ask them for an input here, say name, and we'll come here and be like name equals, so name equals what? Input again, and it will ask you for your name, just like that. So give it a this, sorry, give it a this and this. All right. So then it will now say welcome to now print again. So this is basically like a very custom reply chatbot. F string, what is F string? So welcome, then name, right? I'll give a space here. So let's run it and see. They are very simple. Hi, talk to me. Right, so I'll say hello. Hello.
Someone wants to join. Let this person.
Someone wants to join. Oh, sorry. All right. Okay. So welcome. So what's your name? I think I need to do a bit of formatting here. What is your name? Here, yes. I have to add something to tell me that. Okay. Now, let me run it again now. Stop and rerun. All right. So if you say hi, talk to me, and I say, this is where I should have added it. Here. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Talk to me, and I'll be like, hello. And if I hit hello, it says my name is bot 204. What is your name? And I say Richie, and I hit enter. It's like welcome Richie. So this is very basic stuff, but in fact, if you watch, if you look, if you eventually get to see the code for an AI bot, so there's a script called intent. So I can actually, instead of passing hello here, yeah, I can pass in a file containing a bunch of things you could have said instead of saying hello, and then handle those things. So whatever, if anything you now say, it will now check what you said and give you a response based on. But I cannot start handling anything the person says here because this was very simple this thing. So yeah, basic simple chatbot using an if statement and print and inputs and all. So you can continue asking them for things like what is your age, how old are you, save those things in variables, and then with those variables you can address the user, and you can even store it in a list when we do lists, so you can even attend to multiple users with your chatbot that is custom made and all. So yeah, a very simple demonstration of how to use an if statement, and yeah. So there's also other things you can do with an if statement. So there's something called nested statements. So I hope I hope this is clear. I hope this all this I've done so far is clear enough. Nobody has questions, and if you have questions, please feel free to unmute your mic before we do the nested if statements. And yeah, someone has to join. Okay. Please, if you have questions, unmute your mic and feel free to ask. If you do not, I would continue.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, we are hearing you.
Yeah. I'm just fascinated by this conditional what you've just been doing now. Don't tell me this is how bots are made.
This is exactly how
Chatbots.
bots are made actually. Even at this time we once were working on a chatbot and this is how it's made. So I was saying something. You see the way I said hello. So where I said hello, I could pass in a file containing, imagine you said, you know, instead of saying hello, you said hi. I could pass a file and in that file I'll write a list of the things you could have said instead of hello. And then I'm going to use if statements to handle all those different conditions. Or maybe you said hello, how are you? I'll create a file and put all those things there and then send that file into this input instead of using you get. So yes, this is how chatbots are made. We'll still build things like password validators, email sending. You get to see all those things, but like I said, we are starting to get into the real part of Python programming now.
I'm fascinated.
All right,
This is
so
quite interesting. I want to do this chatbots and wondered how these things learn all this. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
all right, so let's carry on.
My other question, there was a time when I lifted my hand. I wanted to find out, where you are using curly braces to put the result of an input.
Yes.
I'm wondering, okay, we were doing a calculation. So I was wondering what happens if we write, print there is we put in quotes our string in quotes and then close our bracket. Is it not possible to put, let's say, a formula like age on the outside the brackets as a value that came from the calculation instead of putting it inside the bracket? Does it not work?
Okay.
Let's
There
say
is
you put it.
there's I'm not sure I get your question, but let me try. There's another way of doing this. I could actually do this instead, and it will still work. I can say welcome command name, and it will still work. So I don't necessarily need so they talk to me. I'm just say hello, Richie, whatever, and welcome Richie, whatever I typed there. So um the curly braces is just a way of string formatting. The thing about Python is very versatile. So there's no one way of doing something. So you just need to find one that you
Okay.
like and just be using it. But eventually, from time to time, there'll be requirements where you need to use the f string that we are using. But some people just find it very convenient. Instead of doing any other thing, just put it inside the f string and call it braces.
Okay, excuse me. I think the other one is when you're using dot format. In the dot format, you will not need to put it inside those curved brackets. It will be outside. Maybe that's what you are trying to imply. So it's also another way of string formatting by using format.
Oh, so you mean the F is for format?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's okay. Okay, thanks.
Someone's trying to join. Admit. Stanley left. I think he's joining back. Okay, so yeah, basic chatbots, yeah, done. Now we need to do nested if statements. Okay, I guess this was very straightforward. So as from now, we'll be giving you people tougher assignments to do, more interesting assignments, not even tougher assignments. So you need to think more. So now we are going to do nested ifs. So a nested if statement is simply when I want a condition to be the preceding say flag or marker for another condition to be met. Let me say I want 3 conditions to be met before I perform my action. So let me say I'm building a system whereby I have like 3 sensors that need to be triggered before I can know that okay, it's time to turn on the alarm. All right, so I can and this is very applicable to real life systems. So anything I'm saying here is actually not something too far off from the real life. So although we don't have any sensors with us, but we can actually do something like this now. We can let me see. Okay, so let me create 3 variables called sensor1. Let me just call it sensor1, right, equal to input. So input value So input value of your sensor. I would copy this and duplicate it into two other places. So I'm going to be using, okay, let's use two sensors for now. We'll take it up to three later. Okay. Sensor and close brackets. Okay, this guy okay. So I'll call this sensor 2. So let me assume I have maybe two temperature sensors for a tank that I'm monitoring. And if those two sensors go off, maybe the sensor that is under the tank and the one that is the sensor inside and the sensor out, the sensor inside the tank and the sensor outside the tank. So let's assume I'm monitoring those two, and I want to shut down the system once the two of them hit a very high temperature. So what can I do? Now I'm going to use an if statement and say if watch if sensor 1 if sensor 1 equal let me say maybe it's a maybe chemical factory, so I don't want it to exceed maybe 300 degrees. So the value of sensor 1 is equal to 300 degrees. I'm not done, so I want to now check again. And now put on what I'm going to do is, instead of doing something like a print here, or maybe an action or something, or what I want to do, I'm now going to check again. I'll check again if sensor 2, right, is maybe sensor 2 is the one outside, so the temperature outside should never exceed 200 because or 100 degrees. Maybe the tank has insulation or something like that. So now this is okay. It shouldn't even be equal to, it should be equal to or greater than. So I should be saying if sensor 1 is greater than or equal to 300, sensor 2 is greater than or equal to 100. I really know that something is wrong, so I want to print something like, so in the place of this print in the normal system would have, maybe we are sending a signal like shutdown, or so print something like shutdown tank, right? Tanks. Or shut down the heaters. So let me run it. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Typecasting. Very easy to forget. Typecast.
Are you using two ifs together?
So I'm trying to explain a nested if statement. So
Nested.
yes. So I'm trying to explain what a nested if is. So now I want my condition to only run after these two conditions have been met. So I want to make sure that the temperature inside the tank is above 300 and the temperature outside the tank is above 100. So the two sensors are triggered above this temperature. I want to shut down my heaters. So when I run this and it asks me value of sensor, I'm actually supposed to put something like 1 here and 2 here, but let's just run it. I think we understand already. So if I write let me start with a condition that will not meet, cause the tank to shut down. So maybe inside the tank is 150 and outside the tank is 20. So if I run it now, guess what? Nothing happens. It doesn't shut down the heaters. So let's now run it and see what will happen when the two conditions are met. So let's say sensor 1 is 300 degrees or 3000 degrees, which is definitely, and sensor 2 is about 800. So what will happen? Shut down heaters, you get. So now you can see how we've successfully been able to chain two if statements. So remember the same logic. Imagine this is a book and this is a chapter inside that book, and then this is like a subtitle inside the chapter. So if you don't open the book at all, you never see the chapter, and then if you don't read the chapter, you will never get to the subtitle. So that's the way Python runs, and you can see the indentation levels as in steps. So this is actually a tab. On your laptop is approximately 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, but if you press tab, it just takes it there automatically. So and if you're using an IDE will automatically indent for you, even though sometimes it can make mistakes. So don't always depend on auto indentation. So sometimes you might need to escape the indentation levels. For example, I can escape this indentation level now and cause my system to run in a very weird way. Wait, let me see if it will even work. If Python will allow me to do it, to do what I want to do safe. It won't even allow. Python won't allow it. So currently, because for every if statement you must specify a condition. Except if I come down here and I say pass. Now Python will allow this. So I cannot even predict how the system will work. But let me see. If sensor one is so this if statement, this print will run after. In fact, it's basically like, so let me just show you. So let me write a condition now that doesn't meet. So it means naturally I don't want this thing to shut down my heater. So let me say sensor one is 100, sensor two is 50. But watch what will happen. Shutdown heater still ran. It's still printed. Guess why? Check the level of the statement. You see this if and this print. So this print is not under anybody. So this print is like a book on its own. So Python comes here, it checks for this, all right. Then if this condition is met, it comes here and checks for this. If the condition here is met, since I wrote pass here, pass means don't do anything. So anytime you want to escape or you're writing code and you don't want to write something there yet, you can always put pass there and it will just skip the line and move to the next line. So then it came here and it ran this. So that's why anytime if you want something to run prior a condition, if the condition must be met for an action to be performed, that action must be indented under the condition that you are running. So pretty much indentation a bit. Indentation one, we'll still get to explain indentation a bit more for those of us around that. But if you don't understand indentation yet, it signifies. So I'll look for a more suitable paradigm to use to explain it. Aside for the book and the chapter level and the parents to child way and the condition to action method. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So you got to learn what this pass is. There's also another one called continue. So there's continue. Wait, I think continue is for C++. Taiwo. Taiwo still here.
Yes, I'm here.
Should be continue is used in C++, right? It's also used in Python.
Yes. No, it's using Python also now.
I wonder why I didn't. There's also another one. There is
It will work, continue to work.
Shebi to work under the same conditions, but it wasn't auto completing it for me. So I was wondering if maybe I needed to continue. But okay, we'll figure that out later. And what else should we cover? What else? Okay, there's also another one. There's a return, but for now, we will not be using return. We use return when we are working with functions. We want something to return a value, maybe return. When we're working with functions, we'll see how to use the return statement. Class is almost over. So today's class, we looked at conditional statements. We looked at indentation. We looked at how to use if statements, else if, else. We built a chatbot. We also looked at nested if statements. And so with all that, you should be able to start building. Whenever you want to compare two values, like say 5 equal 5, is different from 5 equal 5. This is comparison. This is assignment. Comparison, assignment. Comparison, assignment. So don't make the mistake of using it when you are using your if statement. So if you want to know the result of this now, so we say print, and this is exactly the same example I used in the beginning of the class. Funny. So if we say 5 equal 5, now if we print it out, it should return a value for us. It should return true. Now you see true. It returns true for us. So now if I say print type, okay. So just so that you see that this is actually an operator, like it's a comparison and not an assignment. If I print the type, guess what to print out for me should write boolean. So you can see boolean. So boolean is basically true or false. So there are a few things I can do here, a few comparisons I can do here. I can actually say not equal to. So I can try and see, I can print 5 is not equal to 5 and see what it will return. And it returns boolean. But what I want to get out of this now is not the type anymore, but whether it's true or false. So let me remove this and just run it. So you can see false because 5 is actually equal to 5. So this is wrong. 5 is not equal to 5 in a weird way. There also you can do greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, and yeah, those are kind of comparison operators. So I talked about them initially in the beginning of the class. I think there are a few ones I missed out that in the PDF, so let's just go through them. About, yes, is y is not y. So these are also comparisons. So x is y, x is not y, should return. Let me even start down, write it down. So print 5 is 5. So if I run it, it should ask me, oh, you actually just printed 5 is 5. That's weird. Okay, printed true. Okay, yeah, and it's giving me a warning saying, what's this saying? Let me see the warning. Did you mean equal equal? You see what Python is in. So it replaced the equal sign. So you saw Python is actually pretty smart. So it figured out what I was trying to say, and it's telling me syntax warning is with a literal. Did you mean equal? So it's trying to say instead of is, that Python would prefer if I wrote equal here instead of is. So you say the same thing that is when I said not equal, it's the same thing as saying is not 5. So if I run it now, it should false. So it's actually the same thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it for operators. Then after operators, we looked at we started doing if statements. So we covered what an if statement is. You guys already kind of know what it is. We covered an else statement. We said this is the syntax for an if. So you write the if, then you specify inside a bracket here. It doesn't necessarily need a bracket for your condition. So any condition you want, maybe if 5 3 maybe is less than 5. So this is a condition. Now after your condition, what do? You put a column, and the next line you indent by 1, because now this will run under the if statement. So you perform your action. So here you perform your action, whatever action you want. It can be print, it can be send a mail, it can be retrieve a web page, it can be whatever. So now we also talked about, so what if you want to handle multiple conditions instead of just one single condition? They said Python provides another function called an elif. So elif, now an elif is like, okay, if this condition is not met, run this condition basically. So if if condition 1 is not met, else run condition 2. So it's like saying if 3 is greater than 5, do this. Else if 3 is maybe is less than 49, perform another action. So I'm supposed to I've messed up my indentation levels. So put this here and then perform another action. So you can have a chain of else if statements, as many as possible. You can have like 5 of them to handle 5 different conditions. Okay, so you can duplicate it as much as you want. Python allows multiple else if statements. Sorry, this one also here. So you can have it as many times as you want. Then after all your conditions have run, or if all your if all your conditions do not run, like none of the conditions you specify in your code were met, and you don't want your code to like just crash or just stop there, you now use an else. So an else is the last resort. It's like the other quarter of them all. Like if nothing works, if nothing else runs, run an else statement. So we'll later also show you guys how to handle errors in case the user enters nonsense. Your code will crash, because I remember back then there were some I see websites that if you want to spoil the website, you just enter nonsense values and send it as a URL, and it will crash the so or even enter or divide by 0 and your calculator app will close. So those kind of errors, if you will later teach you how to handle them. So even just like on web pages, when you enter the wrong email, like an invalid email, it will tell you enter a valid email, all that kind of stuff. We'll handle them, we'll teach you guys how to do those things. Yes, yeah, I think we have done justice to conditions for now. If else, nested if statements. Um, yeah. So we're giving you guys a project. It's almost weekend, so after tomorrow's class, we'll give you guys a project to take home and work on. We'll divide you. We do plan on dividing you people into groups. We are still thinking about how to do that one, if we are going to meet, divide you guys into groups. But yes, after tomorrow's class, you should be, I'll say, you should be solid enough to handle some basic, or even figure out how some basic things are working now around in Python. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for bringing out your time. I don't want to keep you for too long because I know everybody's tired already. You managed to attend, and that's a good job. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. Even for me that is here, honestly, it's not easy. But we have to do what we have to do because the world is better for everybody. So all right, everybody, good day. Thank you all. If you have questions, we are free to answer. We are free to ask. If you don't have questions, you can go and probably prepare dinner and spend time with your family members or your friends or play game or something.